Foreign Minister. And I guess, one of the issues is whether it is possible to align perspectives from the region with Western perspectives on what's going on inside the country. And it would be very good to know how you see the situation and what you see. I think you're on record as expressing great solidarity with the people of Afghanistan. You're also very concerned about some of the insecurity inside and crossing the border. How do you see the situation, and what do you think our responsibility is in terms of what can be done and by whom?
So as far as solidarity, the solidarity is for the people of Afghanistan. And how can we not have solidarity for the people of Afghanistan who've gone through tragedy after tragedy for the last many decades? They're in a very difficult spot right now. There's a humanitarian crisis, but as you mentioned, there's an economic crisis, and that's having knock-on effects. I think that's making it more difficult for the interim government in Afghanistan to live up to their obligations to the international community. As far as aligning the regional perspective with the international perspective, I think there is a lot of alignment on paper between the regional perspective and the international perspective. We all want to see women educated in Afghanistan, the interim government live up to their commitments to the women of their country and to the international community to allow for that to happen. We all want to see a more inclusive setup in Afghanistan, as they had committed before the fall of Kabul. And finally, I think what the most important issue is and should be for us in the region and the international community is the potential security threat and terrorist threat emanating out of Afghanistan. There's obviously the Daesh and ISIS threat to the TTA, but then there's a whole alphabet soup of terrorist organizations that have and still do base themselves out of Afghanistan, be they the Talibaned Pakistan, the Baloch Liberation Army, Al-Qaeda, the ETIM, and I could go on.
Do you get the sense that there's enough seriousness being given to this problem?
Unfortunately, no. I think that we are in the international community working in silos as far as, at least let's take the security standpoint, is concerned. There are terrorist groups in Afghanistan such as the TTP and the BLA that are of particular concern to me, so a lot of my time is spent convincing the Afghan authorities to take them on or to address my security challenges. There are terrorist groups that are of concern to the West, and they're engaged specifically about that. They're terrorist groups of concern to China, and they're engaged specifically about that. But perhaps those terrorist groups have more coordination in Afghanistan than we do internationally, in the sense that, as you mentioned, post the fall of Kabul, post the Ukraine war, there's very little attention paid to Afghanistan. And the concern is that if we don't take these groups seriously, the interim government doesn't take these groups seriously, they don't demonstrate first the will and then the capacity to take on terrorist groups, then they will conduct terrorist activities in the region first, and we're already witnessing in Pakistan an uptick in terrorist activity since the fall of Kabul, but it won't be long before that reaches somewhere else. And I would like the international community to act preemptively rather than reactively after the nightmare scenario. So the key is to convince, in whatever way we can, with international consensus, the interim government in Afghanistan to take on terrorism within their borders, to demonstrate the will to do so. And if they demonstrate the will to do so, then I have another more unique pitch, which is this, that we need to find a way to build the capacity, if they have the will, to build the capacity for them to be able to do so. They don't have a standing army. They don't have a counterterrorism force. They don't even have a proper border security force. In that situation, even if they had the will, they certainly don't have the capacity to deal with this threat, which is a problem, first for the imminent neighbors, but then for the international community by and large.